For this problem, we're given a polynomial and we're supposed to determine between which consecutive integers the real zeros are located. So they give us a polynomial and then they give us a range of values from -3 up to, from -5 up to 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an XY table. And they want us to look at consecutive integers, so they're giving us the smallest and biggest numbers we're going to be working with. The smallest integer is a -5, and we're going to plug in all of our integer values all the way up to the number 3, so from -5 to 3. And what they want us to do is determine between which of these the real zeros are located. So for instance, if there happens to be a real zero or an x-intercept between 1 and 2, we want to list that out. So how do you determine what that looks like? How do you determine whether or not you have a real zero between a couple of integer values? Well, we want to know what the y-coordinates look like at those values. So we're going to take -5 and plug it in, take -4, plug it in, take -3, plug it in, and come up with all of those different y-coordinates. So if you do that, if you plug in -5 into the equation, you get 104. If you plug in -4, you get 47, and so on. So here's how this works. The first point that's here has an x-coordinate of -5 and a y-coordinate of 104. So that value right there is the point -5, 104. And what we want to do is decide, is that above or is that below the x-axis? Well, -5, 104, that's going to be above the x-axis because the y-coordinate there is 104, and that's a positive number, so that is up above our x-axis. So this point, -5, 104, is above the x-axis. And then you look at the next value. The next one is at -4, 47. Is that above or below the x-axis? Well, 47 is positive, so this one would be above. So this one was above, and this one is also above. Well, if they were both above, then chances are it did not cross the x-axis. In order for us to find a real zero, we're looking for x-intercepts. And how you'd find an x-intercept looking at a table like this is you would look at the y values, and if one point is above and then the next one is below, well, then it would have to cross the x-axis. But -5, 104, that's above the x-axis. -4, 47, that's above the x-axis. So there's probably not a real zero between those two values because they're both above. The y values are both positive. The next value here is -3, 14. Again, the y value is 14. It's positive. So this is above the x-axis, this is above the x-axis, this one's above the x-axis. So far, all of these are above, so chances are you're not going to have an x-intercept. So this one is above. This one is above. This one, that's also above. The next point is -2, -1. The y-coordinate here is negative. If we graph -2, -1, that point would be below the x-axis. So that means that on our graph, there's going to be an x-intercept between -3 and -2. Because -3, 14 is above, -2, -1 is below. So between the x value of -3 and -2, there's going to be an x-intercept. When you list out your final answers, you're going to list out the x-coordinates only. So between -3 and -2, there is a real 0. This next point is -1, -4. The y-coordinate is negative, so that one is below the x-axis. This one was below, so is this one. So probably not an x-intercept between -2 and -1. This one is below. But this point, 1, 2, that is above. So we went from below the x-axis at 0, -1 to above at 1, 2. Again, you're looking for a sign change in these y-coordinates. If you have a negative y value, it's below. If you have positive, it's above. So between 0 and 1, we would expect there to be another 0 or another x-intercept. The y-coordinate here at this next point is -2, -1. The y-coordinate's negative, so that's going to be below. This point is above, this one is below, so between 1 and 2, there would be another x-intercept. And 3, -16, if you graph that, the y-coordinate here is negative, so that would be below again. So it looks like there would be 3 x-intercepts in between -5 and 3, because when you look at these y values, we have a sign change happening 3 times. So, kind of looking at this and doing it the most efficient way possible without writing out all the rest of that stuff, here is really what you're looking at when you do these problems. First of all, make an XY table with your x's going from these two numbers, from this one to this one, so from -5 to 3. List out all those integer values, plug them in and calculate y values, and then look and see where you have a sign change. Positive, 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 sign change to a negative. So there's a sign change here. There's a sign change here. So one of our answers is going to be between -3 and 2. So look for a sign change in your y values, and then you can write down between the x values. Here the y value is negative, 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 positive. So there's a sign change here. So another answer for this problem is between those two values, between 0 and 1. We have another sign change here, so we have another pair that we would list out. So that's the fastest way to go through and do those problems. Create your table, look for a sign change in your y values, and then write down between the two x values.